again. Welcome back to the Spirit of Watercolor with Linda. And we just did part one, and if you haven't seen it, of using the water-soluble graphite pencils and the brush it comes with. This is what I was doing to get some inspiration into our watercolors, to add some new medium to our watercolor, something that will work well with watercolor. And so part one was doing the little drawing, and then I took this and I added watercolor in this part. This is part two. So if you've seen the first one, if you haven't watched that, and it's not too long, and then you can see how these apply when you draw and then wet them and then wet the paper and then draw. And so it's very good for you to see how they perform and what they do. And then this part two, will show you how to add the paints in, and then where it's wet and you want to add more graphite, you can, okay? And again, the pencils are hard to soft, HB, 2B, 4B, 6B, 8B, okay? So I thought people might like to find out, like myself, you all, my wonderful subscribers, what these are like before you decide to buy them. They were $20 at Michael's Craft. This is Faber-Castell. I know Derwent makes them as well. I think about the same price. I saw them on Amazon. So, there's something that, it's not super cheap, to invest in. And the soluble pencils do kind of wear more quickly down because you're wetting them, and they really can start to kind of move and act as shadows and things like that, and really soften and blend. Not quite like watercolor, doesn't move quite like that. It's still kind of like a pencil. And you watch part one, you'll see how to use them, whether you're drawing like, upright, up, down like that, or shading like this. It's worth watching. And then this one where we do the paint. So I'll see you at the table. Is that the graphite, it doesn't move like watercolor. It does soften and it does flow a bit, but it's not like paint to me. So now I'm going to bring in some watercolors here, and bring some of my favorite brushes in, pointed rounds and so forth. And we'll kind of come in. I taped this down, and we'll just kind of, let's get a larger brush for the wetting. Okay, well, just a large flat here. And we'll start with the sky, since, that's at the top. And, we did wet this already, and I didn't see a lot of change after it was wet a while. We'll bring in some beautiful blue. I've got my palette here. And I think we'll go with this sort of a cobalt blue. Bring it over here. I gotta clean my palette again. And then we'll see what happens when we add some of this into what we already have, but we're adding our colors now. I want to bring some up into the top of the sky and above the shadowy clouds there, and let some of this wonderful color flow down. I already wet that. I'm going to let the paints do quite a bit of the work for us. Okay. I'm going to try and maintain some of those gray to whites here. I'm going to get my paper towel because it's running pretty heavily there. But remember, when we make clouds, we can lift to back to white. Okay. And this is Strathmore paper, which may not respond like some of our other more favorite papers, but it is a pretty good, the 400 pound is pretty good. I sure don't know about this pouring situation right there. Okay, maybe I can get that to stop. Just get some color going against and with the clouds I've made there. I'd like a little more blue in here, so let's do that. This is our sketch to see how these play together. Okay. Okay. was going to just do the video without this, but I think it is pretty necessary for us to just kind of in our understanding this graphite, water-soluble graphite. Let's see what it'll do. I want to bring in some water, but I'm going to get a little more aqua blue, so my manganese blue hue, until I know I need to acquire the cerulean blue. It's still my favorite, sort of a greenish blue. So let's see where our water is. Here it is. All right. And I did not wet that, but I'm just bringing in a water line right now. My brush must have been very, very wet, so that's why we like our toilet paper holder or something, paper towel at least, to blot out if I have too much water. Water control is pretty important here. Just want to make sure I'm following the lines, having strange eyes that I have. As clean as possible up there. And then I'm just kind of bringing a little more down here. If I want a little reflection of that blue, I could bring a little of the cobalt in, debating. But we do have some lines in there from the graphite. It's the HB, so it's not changing it a whole lot. And then we're going to do our mountain and our land in the foreground. Now when we wet this again, I put that pencil line in the wet, didn't I? Yeah. And that's why it's so much darker than up here. The same 8B I did, and then I wet it. And I just want to get some lovely land going here, but I did put in a few markings up here in this mountain back here. Just, we'll see if we can make little crevices in the rock there, or keep those there for crevices in the rock. And then, let's see, I'm going to find a nice brown on my palette. I'm quite sure that is either a burnt sienna or a quin similar color, which is like, I don't think it's quin deep gold because that turns kind of yellow. But here we go. Let's just bring some of this in now. Maybe a little too wet. I'm debating. One thing about this paper, watercolor paper, is sometimes it just, you'll see these things flow straight down. It's just a little too wet, I think. And but you see that it kind of drips straight down, which some of my other watercolor papers don't have that. Sort of the texture is kind of like a grid almost, a tiny, tiny grid. But yeah, okay. Let's keep going here. Around here. Make sure that's all in the painting. Or in the video, sorry. Here it's drier, I think. Yeah. So I'm just kind of creating my own. Yeah. Sometimes I like the flow. I think as it dries, I'll get a little slower flow. I would like that better. Over here. It's a little less wet. A little bit more paint per water. I do like burnt sienna more and more. I, for a long time, didn't really use it. I don't know. I guess I found all those lovely quinacridons. Okay, so now you can always go back in with your pencil too. So don't think that you can't, because you can. Right into that. And we're going to try a little of that in a minute here. I'm just adding a little more variation of value into the rocks there. There's some rocks back here, which I want to do softer because they're further away. Okay. Yeah. And not going to fight with that too much. We're just going to let it do what it's doing, I think, just because it's kind of fun and interesting. I'm trying to diagonalize some of that, but I mean, as it dries, I might have a little more effect. I think I will take a wet, clear brush and soften that out. And lift out a little of the strength of that there. Okay. So you can see it coming to life here. Let's see, those rocks in the background. I want to maybe add a little sort of a gray blue to that sienna there. Make those rocks back there not quite so orangey red because they will pop forward more than maybe I want. I'm just going to bring these in a little where those rocks are. A little bit of reflection in the water, but not too much. As it comes down. My brush might have been a little too large, but I think it's okay. I'm gonna have to soften the brush, I think. Okay. So there we go. In some cases, the graphite may just define a little bit, and that's fine. And yeah, okay. I have another mountain to do here, and then we're just going to kind of see. Okay, up here there's a. I want to go back to that cloud in a little bit because I see a little bit of could be some blue right in here. Okay, I'll let that set up for a minute, and come down into this here with the cobalt. This is doing some interesting stuff here, which of course is the paint doing its own thing, which I think sometimes is very pleasing. Okay. In some places I want to still soften it out more, so it just kind of goes to, graduates to light. Lift here. And yeah, we're just getting a nice little sketch. But we're also seeing it, like I said, with the graphite. Looks how it looks added, you know, with the watercolor there. I'm going to get my larger brush back out. And we're going to try a little different mountain color and the further back mountain. This is a little more orangey, so it's a little warmer. And then, you know, kind of think about possible trees up in there. I'm going to add a touch of green where those potential trees are. This can still. Okay, so let's try a little of that. I'm going to go with cooler green because because I don't have my Viridian on my palette. But I don't want it to be too warm. It'll, again, pop forward. That's our value lesson for the day is, you know, trying to get the more warm tones forward and the more soft tones back here to be less. I'm going to lift this up for a minute here. Let's see if we can bring in those trees a little up here. Okay. And then it's almost like we're getting a reflection on our mountain, which I'm debating that kind of looks cool, but does it make sense? That bit of the graphite underneath will help, you know, with a little bit of detail because it's holding on compared with the paints. I'm going to lift it from here because I don't really think I want a reflection. I'm going to tip my paper backwards so that wants to go until the paint sets up. So it wants to stay over here. I'm not completely on my mountaintop there. I see some land over here. Which, again, we can always come in with some pencil too. Or, just a little information here. Just wetting that. And then we'll create a little bit more back there. Maybe a little color here. It's like the gray kind of dropped down on me there. It kind of, so we'll kind of finish that up a little more too. But anyway, it's kind of, you know, showing us what they do together. Even though it's quite soft and light. I guess as a first try, I didn't want to get super intense, but you can certainly begin to add a lot more intensity. This could be your first layer glaze and then come in with stronger glazing. So this is still quite wet. Added more strong color and more strong value. And I'm just curious about adding the pencil back in now. This is the 4B, so I'm going with a little less hard just to see, because I think I tried all the others, but this is right in the middle of the road. And just kind of, what does this do when I add it in? And you can see it's flowing with the paint. It's much better when it's wet. These you'll run out of faster than a regular pencil, I think, because of the wetting, saturation, and then they kind of lose their thing. So I'm just gonna I hope this is still wet over here. It may be dry, but even then, if I just get some nice pencil lines, I'm happy with that too. But just trying to add a little bit of information into the rock and the mountains and so forth. Okay, more detail would be in the foreground than back there perhaps. So just kind of seeing how much information I can get with this onto the paper. And again, you know, if you want to take a brush, but not too much because you don't want to move that paint too much, but just dab it and wet it just to make sure if it wasn't quite wet enough as you wanted it. And that's, you know, kind of, that's our painting. I'm going to take the tape off, and there we will be for now. But we definitely have a little watercolor came out of that graphite and mixed media here, graphite, water-soluble graphite and watercolor. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Like I said, I really enjoyed trying some new, and this is how, again, to keep our watercolors alive and keep ourselves inspired and motivated, because when you're painting and painting year after year like I am, you know, and sometimes you feel that little bit of artist block coming, you want to, you know, get something and try something new. I have tried charcoals, I have tried, you know, lots of other things in other videos, so watch those too, please. If you're subscribing, you'll see that I have sponging and calligraphy pens and all kinds of non-brush things you can use, techniques. And I want to get into papers too, but our next videos are going to be about doing calming, soothing watercolors, so please join me on those. I think you'll enjoy what it does for your spirit. And then when you have a finished painting that's got soothing colors and calming effect, you can mat and frame, put it somewhere in your home where when you just enjoy it, you know, when it's finished too, has the same calming effect to the spirit. So I'll see you in those videos that are coming next week. Thank you so much. I'll see you.